The world of the Hidden District has gotten very interesting for us, my players. Gene, a southern gentleman of sorts, has found his way into a secret society of hunters. These hunters help keep the public safe from creatures of magic, and help magic stay safe from those who would do it harm. Last we left Gene, he'd learned a small bit of healing magic from a nymph named Ginger after saving her from a ghoul attack. The spell she taught him left him completely drained of energy, though. Then he was apprenticed to the veteran hunter, Webster, a gruff Sasquatch who knew how to wield his magic and expected much from the new hunter. They set off to meet a merchant who is a part of the Unseen, the society of magical creatures who live in our world just barely under our radar. Once there, they were ambushed by a faction calling themselves the Order of the Templar. That is where we left off, so let's dive into tonight's episode of Without the Dice. Hidden District, Episode 5, What You're Made Of. Gene took a step up next to Webster, who still held his blunderbuss pointed at the Templar who had just issued their ultimatum. Placing his hands on the Sasquatch's huge shoulders, Gene shook his head. There are just too many of them. You may make it out of this alive, big guy. Me, though, I'd just be a liability. Webster heaved a huge sigh and lowered the gun. Guess it'll be the easy way, then. The lead Templar chuffed as he put away his long sword.
How disappointing. I haven't had the pleasure of testing myself against one of your kind yet.
Webster gave the Templar a wicked grin. Oh, I can tell you haven't fought my kind yet. The Templar tilted his head questioningly at the statement.
Really? How's that?
Webster bore his gaze into the slitted eye holes of the Templar. Simple, really. You're still alive. The lead Templar clenched his mailed hands into fists and slowly walked away.
Come on, you heathens. There will be plenty of time for banter later.
Gene followed Webster out of the tent. As soon as he did, the smell of hot blood hit him in the face in a wave. Several bodies littered the stone flagons. The merchants that had been just moments earlier hawking their wares lay still on the ground, never to sell anything again. A hot rage boiled inside Gene, and he felt himself slowly reaching for his shotgun. But one hard look from Webster cooled him like a bucket of ice. He had chosen the easy way, and now with their weapons put away, the chance of them winning if this came to steel and powder might as well be zero. They were pushed forward through the center of what once was a thriving market. As Gene and Webster stepped gingerly through the carnage, the Templars stomped through, some of them even chuckling as their heavy boots cracked bone underneath their bodies. Gritting his teeth, Webster called out to the leader. Where are you taking us?
To our banner, Lord, and that's all you need to know. Now shut up.
As this was said, Gene felt something be roughly yanked over his head. That's when he couldn't take it anymore. His fist shot out, rebounding off a solid plate mail. He let out a small wince of pain before feeling metal crunch into the back of his head. And like that, he was slammed into darkness. Gene shot up as frigid water splashed onto his face. He was happy to see that there was no longer anything over his head, but that relief shattered as he saw the condition Webster was now in. Many deep gashes covered his body, and both his eyes were black with contusions. Rise and shine, sleeping beauty. We need to come up with a plan. Gene glanced around, seeing that they were in some kind of cell. He lay on a small bed of hay. Are you okay? Also, Where are we? Webster waved a hand. I'm fine. And as to where they've placed us to rot, God knows. When they tried to bag us, I started fighting. I knocked a couple of them out, but they overwhelmed me. God damn it, I've never been so humiliated. I never should have taken you with me. You're not ready to be a hunter. You're just in the way. Jean scoffed. And whose fault is that? I asked for training. You said we'd do it on the go. We both see how well that turned out. Webster rushed forward, shoving a hairy finger in Jean's face. I wish I'd told Douglas to shove off when he asked me to train you. Wait a minute. Do you think you can heal me like you did to yourself earlier? Jean blew out a breath. I don't know. Last time it just kinda happened. And even if I could, I passed out immediately afterwards. Webster sat down hard near Jean. We can sit here and speculate until they come back to kill us. Or we can try. And maybe, just maybe, you might be good for something. Jean sat in front of Webster with his legs crossed and looked deep into the Sasquatch's swollen eyes. All right. How do we do this? Webster reached his hands forward, palms up. Place your hands on top of mine to establish a connection. Now, let your mind fall quiet and just focus on your breathing for a minute. Let the pain ease out of your body. Ignore the itches, the sneezes, the rushing thoughts. All of them can wait. Focus on my voice. Think of my pain, and my injuries, and imagine them sealing up. They sat like that for several minutes until Jean spoke up. Is something supposed to happen? Webster chuckled. It's not always so cut and dry. It's different for everyone. But forget what I said earlier. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. You can do this. Think of why you need to get out of here. Think of those who need you. Jean's mind slowed, and for a minute, all I could picture was his mother. Her laying in a hospital bed, wondering why he'd stopped calling her, and deathly scared of how she would continue her treatments. He pictured her, banged up, eyes blackened, cut open in various places, like Webster was in front of him. And then he imagined a wash of sea blue magic washing over her skin and sealing up all her wounds. He slowly opened his eyes to see the same blue magic wrapped around Webster's form, his cuts healing, his bruises fading. Now, just pull back Slowly, the magic winked out like a light, leaving Gene clawing for breath and feeling exhausted for a moment. He swayed back and forth, but Webster steadied him with a strong, firm hand. "Not bad, kid. No. Just need you to pull yourself together enough that we can sneak out of here." Gene shook his head vigorously and slapped his face and stood up. "All right, let's go." Gene paused as he watched the now healed Sasquatch stand to his full height. Strutting over to the iron bars, his hands gripped them and ripped them out of the floor and ceiling like sticks and tossed them to the side to clang on the cobblestones below. The two quickly moved out to the hallway where two large war chests sat. Each had a small padlock on the front, but with a twist of Webster's strong wrists, they opened to reveal their weapons, as well a myriad of other objects. Webster reached into the chest and pulled out a small glass jar of glowing yellow powder that reminded Gene a little bit of glitter. "What's that?" Gene said, eyeing the strange substance. Webster gave Gene a shark-like grin. "Pixie dust. I can use it as a magic conduit." Conduit what?" Gene said, while rubbing the sore spot on his head. "A conduit. To put it simply, it's harder to use magic on strictly material objects. But by covering it in this dust, it allows for an easy connection." "All right," Gene said, nodding his head. "But what do you plan on using it for?" Webster chuffed and pulled out a couple of steel balls. "My ammo, of course. It allows me to steer my bullets. I normally get a small bit from Tim, but I won't look a gift horse in the mouth." Gene's face screwed up. "Did you just say Tim is a fairy?" Webster shook his head emphatically. "No, I said Tim is a pixie. Fairies are tiny, carnivorous, and not to be trusted. Pixies are, well, normal size, but can move at incredible speeds and make pixie dust." Gene ran his hand through his hair. Okay. Anyway, is there anything in that box of use?" Webster shrugged. "Plenty, but I got what I wanted. Feel free to take anything that you think is interesting. That is, as long as it won't slow us down." Gene looked down into the chests, and after shuffling around several things, he came out with a small ring that had what looked to be a tornado on it, of all things. He tested it on his middle finger, and it fit almost perfectly. Then there was the item that he had been most excited about when he was digging through the box. A rather large multi-tool, which was held in a beautiful leather case. Gene undid the small clip that held the knife in place and took it in his hand. As he did, a small shock passed between the blade and his hand, and there was a ringing in his ears like tinnitus. And then a voice rang out loud in his head. "Hello." Gene yelped and let the knife clatter to the ground. "What in the hell is wrong with you?" Webster said, scowling at Gene, glancing at the knife and then at Webster, then back at the knife. Gene rubbed his aching head, then retrieved the knife and placed it in the case. Nothing, just, got a bad headache." "Well, keep your headache inside your head. I don't want to draw attention to ourselves. If we're lucky, we might be able to learn something about these tin soldiers. And if we're smart, we might just make it back to headquarters to tell Douglas before they kill us." Gene nodded and handed some of his shells to Webster. "Dip some of my bullets in that magic power bait." Might as well try to learn while we fight for our lives. Webster nodded his head and smiled. I think we're gonna do well together, you and I. Webster took the lead, moving down the long hallway of the cells, and then eventually rounded a corner. The turn put them into another hallway that looked much the same, but this time the cells were not empty. Each cell had an occupant, several of whom looked gaunt and emaciated. Small bowls of fried meat sat in front of those that looked in the worst shape, and those who looked more healthy had the same bowls, but they were empty. The inmates who had presumably eaten from them seemed to be pacing, jumping up and down, or doing something that just seemed jittery. For a moment, Jean and Webster merely stared in shock. Then, Webster wandered closer to one of the more gaunt members' cells. The man slowly looked up. It took him a long time to be able to look into the face of Webster, as if just the motion was a monumentous task, like climbing a mountain. His sandy brown hair hung matted in front of his face. Who are you? You're no Templar, the man croaked out. Someone who might be able to help you. Do you want to tell me what the hell's going on here? The man stared, enraptured by Webster. You're one of them, aren't you? One of those creatures they're talking about. What are you? Webster gritted his teeth. Bigfoot! Now spill it, you bag of bones! The man stayed silent and just stared at Webster for some time. Then slowly came to his senses. They're feeding us your kind. Well, not exactly your kind, but things like you, creatures. I thought these things were myth, but, well, it's been making people in here crazy, and when they get real wild, they take 'em somewhere. That's all I know, I swear. I've refused to eat because I saw what it did to the others. They were worse than animals. They were monsters. I don't know how much longer I can keep going, though. The pain is unbearable. Jean reached into his pocket and tossed to the man a small bag of jerky. The man tore into the bag ravenously, scarfing down the pieces as quickly as he could get them into his mouth. Tears ran down his withered cheeks as he ate. Remembering himself for a minute, the man looked up, sobbing out his thanks through mournful sobs. We need to help them, Jean said, looking around at the people that were locked up. Well, no shit. They're making ghouls out of these poor folks. Probably think they can use them to start their little crusade back up again. It probably would have worked, too. But we're getting out of here, and then we'll be back with the fires of hell following us. Saddle up, boyo. It's time we made our great escape. The two of them ran down the hallway. Inmates yelled and hooted and hollered at them, some even going as far as slamming themselves into the bars, trying to reach out and get at Webster. But they paid them no mind. Racing to the steel door at the end, they flung it open to reveal a long spiraling staircase leading up. Rushing through the door, weapons at the ready, the pair bolted up the stairs, through another door, to see a Templar wearing one of their customary suits of armor, in what could only be described as a monster's version of a kitchen. Meatless humanoid carcasses littered the ground around where the Templar worked. Some were rather small as well. Seeing the two burst through the door, the Templar went for a large meat cleaver, but was stopped short as a steel ball boomed out of Webster's gun. It looked like it was going to miss completely, but then Webster flicked his wrist, and the bullet bent in midair, a yellow streak following behind it, and went straight through the thin, small slits in the knight's helm. The knight fell stone dead to the ground, with a resonating clang of armor. The two of them rushed toward the next door, but before they rushed through, Jean stopped and yanked a small piece of paper off a pine board that was set up near the door. It had today's date on it, and 3 things were on the schedule. 1. Take the ghouls that have already been prepared to the event center to exterminate the so-called hunters. 2. A small team of Templars will be heading to the botanical gardens. Several nymphs have been found to be making this place their home. Get rid of them. 3. Some soldiers will stay to execute the remaining prisoners, as most of them are not eating, so they're useless. Kill them. Now, players, it is your time to make your decision. Several of Jean's new friends are in trouble. Who will he help? Who will he try to save? It is your story. It is your decision. Vote down in the comments on our YouTube channel, and when we write our next episode, we'll go with your decision. If you have another fun idea, let us know. If your idea gets the most votes, we'll go with your decision. As always, we love you for coming along on this ride with us. And please comment and subscribe so we can grow the channel and get more players. Until next time, my players, let's write a story. Let's play a game without the dice.